Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TFT KDA Cup. This is going to be the first competitive venture for North America in Remix Rumble, and we are so excited to be here with all of you. My name is Nekra, and I'm your desk host this weekend, joined by the rest of our band. We've got Azale and Casanova here on the desk so far. Welcome back, and how are you both doing?
Oh, I'm so excited to jump into this, right? We got a taste with the Vegas Open. We had such an amazing event there, but now it's really pedal to the metal to try and, qualify for regionals and get to Worlds, right? This is really set 10 competitive kicking off, and the stakes have never been higher because our season is so much shorter. So, I mean, we've never had a cup like this, and I just can't wait to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be amazing. I feel like it's such a star-studded lineup. We have, all the biggest streamers. We have all the, regular faces. We have a lot of these players who succeeded so much at Vegas now, replicating some of that success, making it to this final weekend here for KDA Cup. And it's all on a massive new patch. So it's going to be so exciting to see what players cook up.
I'm so excited to be back here with both of you. And we also have our two other pop stars waiting in the wings, Crowan and Gangly, who we'll be hearing from later on today. But there's so much to look forward to and so much to reflect on. I mean, the way that we even just kicked off Remix Rumble was with the biggest TFT event of the ages. That was the TFT Vegas Open. We just got back from that. It still feels like it was eons ago, but also just a couple of days ago. There's so much that I feel like is just amazing about this event.
Yeah, I mean, it really was the just like most amazing event that I've ever been to, right? Something so huge for TFT. The community feel was so great. The crowd was electric. I mean, my favorite moment of the whole thing was, being behind Humbug and Ashmoo when they found out they had made top 8 and they jumped up and they're hugging each other and the lab was all there screaming. And it was just so incredible to be in that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was so fun for me because, this is kind of like my, my esports roots was doing all these MLGs and these IEMs and ESLs and stuff and dream hacks. And this really took me back to that in such a cool way. There's so many players here who was their first time competing on LAN, so many fans there watching. It was their first time being to an event like this, getting to meet their friends, getting to watch these people and compete in this environment that they've never been able to do before. Was really, really cool. And I think it really motivated this new crop of pros to grind harder, to try to get to the top because they had such an incredible time and they saw, how amazing of an experience it was for these people who got to the top, who got to those final lobbies, and they wanted to be them, right? They want to be able to have that experience. So it was just so much fun, seeing throughout the days. In the early days, everyone's kind of spread out, watching their favorite pro, watching their favorite streamer or whatever. And for everyone to come together on that final day, watching the same lobby and being treated to some of the closest, craziest games we have ever seen was just so much fun.
Yeah, and we got to see it capped off with Malala finally getting a tournament win. He had come so close so many times and, cups and mid sets, and this time he finally gets it. He had this reputation as a choker because he had come so close and everyone thought he was, gonna do it. And then he just played some, not as great TFT, but to come into Vegas and win the biggest prize pot, right? I mean, that's the best time to spike. And Malala, he played amazing on that stage.
Broccoli gave him a run for his money, too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sitting there backstage watching this final lobby, and I'm going, oh my goodness, is Broccoli just going to end it in a title fashion and just win in 4 games? I'm not really sure, but I feel like those final moments in all of those games, I was just on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people coming into that final lobby thought it was going to be Broccoli's tournament to win, right?
Yeah.
He had been dominating. People felt like he had the best read on the meta. When I was talking to other pros, they're saying, yeah, this is the guy who's playing the best TFT at the whole event, right? So a lot of people were predicting it was going to be him, and it looked like he was just going to crush through, win the lobbies really, really quick. It was that game against Kevin Parker that was ridiculously close, came down in the final moments. That extends the lobby. Then it gets extended again. Then Humbug, who had been having a terrible lobby, he gets a first place and extends it even more. And it just kept going and going and going. Ended up in such a crazy situation, where it was, at the end of the day, it was like any reroll in that final game from Malala. And I don't even think he was able to find a Shojin or anything. Like, he had really atypical
Ginsus.
items. He was,
yeah.
Exactly. He was playing Ginsus. He was playing kind of like weird augments. I think it was learning to spell or something like that. And, he gets a first place and wins the Vegas Open off of that. So it was just so cool to see all these different, players really performing well, and it just created magical moments.
I mean, it's going to go down in history, that fight between Kevin Parker and Broccoli in the very end, and just, the Yone being so incredibly low. And I mean, even on the desk, as we were calling it, right, Dan was going through the motions. He was king making Broccoli, And suddenly Yone just turns around. I got one more swing in me. Stops it. And it's like, all right, we got a bunch more games to play.
It's so amazing to see the player reactions to all of this too. Like Ashmu's personality was one of the biggest and the brightest on the entire stage. And then we also have just the crowd going absolutely nuts for some of these games. If you weren't there, I hope you enjoyed the highlights from that event. And we also hope that you look forward to the next Vegas, or not Vegas, we're not going to be in Vegas, the next TFT Open, because that's going to be happening sometime later on this year. And so very excited to see where they're going to take us when it comes down to the next worldwide location. But, you know, now we get a chance to look towards the future. As the TFT Vegas is concluded, we're looking now to see where can we really push the TFT circuit competitively. So if you're tuning in for the first time to the North America TFT scene, we've got this video to show you what this new competitive format for Set 10 is all about.
Welcome to Teamfight Tactics Remix Rumble North American Esports. Before we begin, I'd like to state that I've joined the global TFT esports team at Riot as a contractor. In addition to that, Riot is happy to announce our new partnership with Tech, the team behind Rising Legends in EMEA and the Set Championships. There are some substantial changes this set, both as a result of the holiday season as well as the TFT Vegas Open, and I am here once again to explain.
Thanks, Natures, but we'll take it from here. We are excited for Tech to be both the tournament organizer and broadcast operator for Teamfight Tactics Remix Rumble North American Esports. Remix Rumble will be a shorter format, with only 2 cups and a regional finals, but we're just as excited to see high-level competition being played out. While the number of tournaments have decreased, the path to regionals will look similar to what players have had in the past. The KDA Cup and the Hearthstone Cup will offer direct paths to the regional finals, while leaderboard snapshots and qualifier points reward consistency on ladder and the 2 cups, respectively. Wes, why don't you explain how qualification works?
Hi everyone, this set, KDA and Hearthstone Cup will share the same format as each other. The top 32 ranked signups will qualify directly to Day 3, while the bottom seeded 128 players will play from Day 1 in order to determine which 32 players will be joining the top seeded players on Day 3. Players will earn qualifier points based on how well they perform, and the top 4 players from each cup qualify directly into the regional finals. The ladder snapshots will begin on January 3rd and run until February 7th for a total of 6 snapshots. The 6 best performing players on these snapshots will qualify directly for regional finals. The remaining 10 spots at regionals will be allocated to the players with the best qualifier points across both cups. Once at regional finals, the 24 players will have a chance to qualify for the much coveted Remix Rumble World Championship. The top 3 placing players in the North American Regional Finals will earn their spot at the World Championship, with the 4th slot being awarded to the player with the highest average placement across all 3 days of regional finals. To read more about the deadlines, dates, qualifier, and ladder snapshot points, please refer to our website for more information. We can't wait to see our North American representatives bring home the World Championship once again.
All right, you know how I said that the stakes have never been higher for a single cup? I mean, this is why, right? We have half the amount of cups that we used to, and there's no mid set, right? That's with the shorter seasons than 3 sets a year. And so because of this, with only 10 qualifier point spots, there is no margin for error in these cups. If you bomb out of one, it's going to be very hard to qualify qualifier points themselves. You're going to have to look for a top 4, or you're going to have to try and make it through ladder. So these snapshots are so incredibly important for all these players to kind of diversify how they try and qualify for the regional finals. You got to do really well on ladder. You got to do really well in these cups to make sure you earn a spot and a chance to try and make it to the championship.
I mean, absolutely. You have to maximize your chances, right? As you say, there are fewer chances. They become more important. And it also means that your read on the meta when you're coming into these cups is so incredibly important, right? Because you don't have a chance to say, okay, well, this reroll style, it's not really my style. You know, maybe a different patch later on could be better for me. You have to be able to perform right now. And I think it, you know, is even more important because we have this big patch that just came out, and it kind of emphasizes the growing, kind of like trend of these study groups, right? Where all these people are in these different study groups. And that's one of the situations where you can get such a benefit from that, because all these people working together should have a better read, should have better strategies to be able to bring into the event.
You talk about those study groups and honestly how that information extends outside of even just those insulated groups. It's one of the reasons why North America is as strong of a region as it is because of all of that information sharing. I do wonder if maybe that retracts a little. Maybe you are going to hold your cards a little bit closer to your chest if you know that these cups are just so far and few between for this event.
Yeah,
You
we
have
did see
to-
that at Vegas, right? We saw people actually holding stuff back, and hey, maybe 2 days. Yes, yes, the study group share with each other quite a bit, but hey, maybe not this time.
You got to start gaslighting your opponents. Terra crew roll. That's the way to win.
All the psyops on Twitter,
Yeah.
Oh yes, I've been re-rolling this to great success.
Uh-huh. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Absolutely do that, and then I get to roll over all of your lobbies. It's going to be so exciting to see how all of our players do adjust, because this is going to be day 3 of the competition that we are following. We had 2 full days last weekend, and now we get a chance to look at our top 64 with a fresh perspective. These 32 players were able to make it out of those first 2 competitive days.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many big names. A lot of people that we, saw have success at Vegas are going to be performing here again at this event. Humbug and Ashmu, both players who were in the final lobby there. Solus almost made the final lobby at Vegas, but there's so many other big names here, Cass. It's impossible to call them all out.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? Like, you could just go down the entire list and everybody feels exciting, right? I mean, I'm looking at like DQA and Cottontail on this list as well, right? DQA has been the world's twice. Roby Van Knob ended up having the most points on day 1, so he's pretty exciting to look at. And Rain Plosion was one of our best players from set 7, coming back in set 10, trying to really prove that she's still got it. She can still end up on top.
I can't wait to see how that's going to go. I mean, it's also Rain, ended up getting second at the Vegas Last Chance tournament. And so a lot to be able to show, not just in recent results, but also pioneering forward into these next few days of competition. But is it going to be kind of the older story of, well, maybe some of these players were affected by land jitters, but now they're a little comfortable. They're at home.
Yeah.
And who else that are more comfortable than these 32 players that just got a chance to walk right into this day 3 after a great ladder snapshot?
Exactly. And I think a lot of the biggest names are these players who qualified in through ladder. It's the ladder warriors. It's a lot of the biggest streamers. It's the people that you know and love. You're looking at some of these names who maybe were expected to win Vegas. Someone like Wajan Iverson wasn't even there. He's one of the biggest names in TFT right now. Setsuko didn't have the level of performance that he wanted at Vegas, despite the fact that a lot of people were predicting he could win the whole thing. Robin Songs didn't have that level of performance. Dish Soap wanted to do more. There's so many of these players here that are these massive names that I think are really going to be so hungry to have a great KDA Cup performance so that they can showcase, hey, there's a reason we are the big names. We're still going to be on top.
Yeah, and there's a name that's not as big that was on that list that I want to call out. Wilf, he was formerly Yunwilf, just kind of the LCQ god, right? He was first in LCQ in set 8, third in set 9. All his other cup performances haven't been fantastic, but coming into set 10, there's a lot of hype behind him. He made it into the top 15 power rankings of Don't Talk If You Don't Know, and it's really exciting to watch. A lot of people get excited for this player, and I want to see if he can shake off that cup curse that he's had and have a really good performance.
I love that you mentioned Wilf, but speaking of somebody else that we have to make sure we're celebrating in this set 10, that has a great shot to be able to take the whole thing. That's Humbug, who we have on the line right now. Humbug, welcome into the broadcast. How are you doing after such an amazing TFT Vegas Open?
I've been doing pretty good lately. I've just been kind of grinding through ladder. I've been getting, because I after Vegas, I was only Diamond 3, so it wasn't too hard to climb back up. But right now, I'm kind of just at, that plateau level where it's, new patch, so I'm still kind of learning. I think I have a pretty good read for today, at least, also.
So how are you feeling? I mean, obviously you had an incredible performance at Vegas. Now you've made final weekend here at KDA Cup. That's 2 pretty big results back to back. Do you feel like, this is because you're working harder, because you're more motivated? What is it that is leading to kind of this newfound success for you?
I think it's mostly because I kind of had to learn how to play better in tournaments, because my past tournament results in set 7, set 8. They're day 1, day 1, day 1, day 2. I was not that good. But after Vegas, I kind of learned how I can focus myself and make sure I'm not making as many mistakes as possible. Because still doing these tournaments at home, like I could still get distracted pretty easily. And but at Vegas, I kind of just learned like I can just focus myself on this. Don't think about anything else. Just eyes on the prize right now.
All right,
So
and
what is
Humbug,
it? Oh, what is the biggest difference that you think, like as far as ladder play versus tournament play? Like, what is it that you've had to really kind of shift to try to change those results?
Uh, Ladder play feels more like it feels more aggressive, if that makes sense. Like a lot more people are willing to take bigger risks, so that means that they could go first a lot easier, eighth a lot easier. So sometimes you just get dealt a bad hand and you just go fifth because most people took those risks and they go first. But in tournament, people play a lot safer. I'm definitely one of those people who play a lot safer. On ladder, I'm just like my match history right now is like 1-8, 1-8, 1-8. And in tournament, usually my results are like I'm pretty sure I'm averaging like a third for the past 2 days of KDA Cup. So people are not as willing to take risks unless they're in a dire spot. Like game five, they have like 21 points and they need a first here.
yeah, for sure. And Humbug, I wanted to ask you a bit about, at Vegas, you were the honorary lab member, right? They got you the lab coat. You were all cheering you on. And then now, we've got lab in your tag. You got your PhD. You've arrived with the lab members. And I assume, have you been prepping with them? How has prepping with the lab been for getting ready for KDA Cup?
Yeah. So I've been with the lab since like for about a bit over half a year now. I just didn't have lab in my tag initially because when I signed up, it was kind of like bugged out on my end, so it was just kind of unlucky. So, but we were just like kind of passing on a lot of information through each other and filtering out like all the good from the bad. Like we can see some things like if we're looking through like best in slot items right now, because I think it is very important to know what are the best items on each carry right now. Like we're just kind of sifting through like this item synergizes well with this on X unit, but this one doesn't really. And just like how to like managing our item economy better. Like we'll have like one person streaming their game and we'll have like three people thinking like, oh, I think like right now we should do this right now, or oh, we should do this.
Yeah, I'm so pumped to hear and see what's going to happen here, Cumbug, for you and your tournament this upcoming weekend. I know you might have a shout out for the lab and also, of course, all those wonderful memories. But any other shout outs you'd like to make before we let you go on your way to your tournament?
Uh, just every single person who's helped me get to this point, everyone who just talks with me every day, like it just makes playing TFT so much more fun. And then my number one supporters, my mom and my dad. They've been asking me almost every day, like, "Hey, like, how's your tournament stuff going? Or have you been doing well? Are you ready for today?" It's just like it just makes me a lot happier.
That's so nice to hear all that support that you have, Humbug. I think we're all rooting for you as well, just after
Ooh,
your big personality and everything else. So, best of luck today, and hopefully, we'll be talking to you later.
thank you.
How can you not love
He's
Humbug?
great. He's so great.
Like,
He's actually like he gives such great like succinct answers with so much information about the lab and everything. Like I feel like I know how to root for the lab. I know what the preparation has been for all of the lab members so far. I mean, Humbug's just awesome. He was so sweet at Vegas as well. It was really exciting when he qualified, and he was incredibly humble the entire time. Every time I talked to him, he was just like, I'm just gonna keep taking it a step at a time and see how far I go. He's like, I think I've already well outperformed what I normally do, so we'll just see. And he took it all the way to top 8 and had a really great performance in that final lobby, even with the slow start.
I'm still hearing the chants from the crowd of like humbug, humbug, especially after the little chibi Timo was taking up players left and right. It's gonna terrify me for years to come. But you know what else I think is daunting for our players is that we had a giant patch go through in the middle of this tournament. So days 1 and 2 played on a completely different patch that we're gonna be playing on this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest patch I have seen since I started playing TFT, barring like an entire new set. There's a massive amount of changes to the individual champions, to the items. There's new portals. The augments were changes. The traits were changed. Some of the spatulas were even changed. You can craft country spat. You can't do jazz. True damage spat got nerfed. Like, there is such an enormous amount. And that's before you even mention all the changes to the economy, which is like the basis of TFT and the basis of the game. The streak changes, the open fort changes. So it is really completely changing how people play, the level timings, the way that you can actually, you know, roll for headliners, because people before were going 8 on 4-1. Like in a lot of these games, you can't really do that very often anymore unless you have an eco augment or something like that. So it really has changed TFT massively. And I think it's going to be so much about who has the best read on this new meta, who's going to be able to actually really perform when it counts. Because I think a lot of people are going to come in here with different reads, with different strategies, and not all of them are going to be right.
Yeah, I mean, now we're playing TFT 2 at this point, right? Fundamentally, the game has changed because the way that streaks worked, lost streak used to be great, but now that streaks take so long to ramp up, it's a lot better to try and find your gold through wins. So playing tempo style, hopefully you can get the win streak, but even just winning a good amount of rounds is going to help you get that additional gold. So we see a lot more people trying to play each turn to make the strongest possible board. And I think that changes so much about the nature of how people will play these lobbies, especially because people like to play safe in tournament anyway. We'll see, you know, more people fighting for those win streaks.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be so interesting, right? You know, like, is anyone actually going to still do open fort if no one else is contesting it? Are people going to be willing to go lost streak? If someone gets early heart steal, how deep are you going to go? Because you can obviously risk it for an even bigger cash out now after that first 4. So, you know, there are some really risky strategies, but like Humbug said, you know, people generally play more conservative. They want to keep their health high. So I do think we're not going to see a lot of that. But if no one's contesting you, I still have seen some players doing open fort.
Oh, whether or not that comes back to bite you, though, because we even saw that at the Vegas Open where some people would open for it, but they wouldn't have enough health to be able to make it through to the end game. So that is very possible that it might not go your way. But I think some of the other really big features of 14.1 that, okay, we don't have a mid set, but we have a giant patch. Talk about new portals a little bit. We've got 11 new portals that are coming into the game now. Is that a big difference maker for some of these players when we might see new portals getting chosen?
It totally can be, because a lot of the new portals are a little bit crazy, right? The tactician crowns can come through, right? Crab Rave.
Yeah.
You can lose to neutrals. I mean, we've seen plenty of people losing to neutrals in Twitch clips, but the spatula one I think is actually something that might be quite clickable. And right now, I mean, it's like Pentakill and Country are the two biggest that would use that spatula. So if we get some creativity out of that portal, it can be really cool to see what people have cooked up with their spatulas behind closed doors coming into this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, right? You know, generally in tournament play, people are going to go for the lowest variance portals,
So
unless
boring.
they think they're an underdog, right? Or unless they really are like, hey, lobby's not going well for me. It's time to vote for Scuttlepuddle. It's time to vote for Prismatic Symphony and try to go for something crazy, right? So it'll be fun if we get to see some of that. I would love to see Crab Rave in a tournament, just because I think it would be hilarious to see people lose to the crab. You actually need a really good board, and you need some sustain as well on your carries, or you can straight up lose with like strong boards. It is really shocking the amount of people I've seen die to that and get eliminated from that. Like, it's tough.
My favorite clip might have been the one that I saw K3 Soju lose to the Crab Brave. I was like, of all people, it's just funny when it's the reaction that K3 Soju's gonna have, and you know he's gonna have to a situation like that. But let's talk about strong boards then. What are some of these compositions that come with this patch that could be front runners to take a lobby win?
I think, you know, with a lot of the economy changes, you know, it's making reroll really strong, right? Because you want to have these strong early boards. So I've been playing a lot of 3-cost reroll, this type of stuff. Riven is one of the ones that I've really been enjoying. You know, this 8-bit edgelord Riven style. You do 4 8-bit, 5 edgelord, really, really strong. You're playing around Riven. You know, you're rolling heavy on 7, trying to get that 3-star Riven. It's also a board that can really be capped out. You know, if you can hit that spat, if you can get those kind of luxury things, you can go for 8-bit spat. You can even go 6 8-bit, which can be really, really powerful. But it's something that, you know, does do well against a lot of the meta comps. We're seeing a lot of Disco, we're seeing a lot of Pentacoli, and Riven can deal with those. So obviously you need fairly specific items, but I think it's really, really powerful, especially when people are trying to play those greedier lines. If people are trying to go for those 4-cost comps, you can sometimes get a really powerful board online early and punish people's health, like really get them low before they can fully cap out their boards.
Yeah, the comp I want to talk about is another reroll comp. It actually requires you to get a specific augment to play, though. This is Twin Terror. And the reason I like this comp so much is it is playing around what I think is by far the strongest unit in the patch. And it's OP. That too. But Vex. specifically, Vex is what I want to talk about and highlight here. Is like
Also
in
OP.
Country, in Twin Terror, in just 6 executioner boards, 4 executioner boards. Vex is insane right now, and this is the best way to abuse that and play for those top placements because Twin Terror is so good, right? You look at the synergies of this board. You got 2 Emo, 2 Executioner, 2 Guardian, 2 Punk. The synergies are perfect, and the Punk helps you reroll to hit all the 3 stars because you get that extra $1 reroll at the start of each round. And by playing around Twin Terror, you can play into different headliners. Emo Vex, you can add a Populator for 4 Emo, which got buffed and is quite good. Or if it's Executioner Vex, which I think is even better, you get to add just any Executioner after, play 4 Executioner, and Vex scales so well off these buffs. She is absolutely insane. She is outperforming every 4 cost in the stats, and she is just absolutely immaculate. So we'll see if people play around her in a lot of different ways. I've seen people reroll her with Lulu. I've seen people reroll her with Country, with Twin Terror, with just any Executioners. She's just great.
Oh, I mean, hey, Executioners, I'm here for it. I am gonna hedge my bets against the Ribbon reroll, and I'm gonna play Pentakali no matter what anyway. Because this composition, you talk about OP, this is one that I feel like can really take a first place, especially if you can cap out the board as high as this power cap can go. You're really looking for the 7 pentakill, right? But if you have an emblem that's so easy to accomplish, if you can get the pentakill headliner on Karthus or Viego, you're also in such a good spot. I will say though that while this might not be more of like a traditional like reroll, you're looking for that 4 cost headliner, that is a bit of a difference when it comes down to patch 14.1, because with that change, if you have, let's say, 4 Karthus sitting on your bench, you can't actually pick up the 4 cost headliner because it's not going to show up in your shop. So gotta think a little smart about that when you can't just have 6 Karthus and roll the 3-star.
No instant
Disappointing.
3 stars like the 3 cost reroll enjoyers, right? Where they just get to
Yeah.
they just get to click it and instantly get there.
It'll take some getting used to, but you know what? I'm strong and I will prevail and I will not pivot because that is what 2024 resolution has taught me
It's
for
no
TF.
pivot.
Every
Yeah.
Necro lobby is just me, Karthus, mute all.
Yep. Me Karthus, nuke everything.
You know, Necro, you could join the 3 cost rerollers even with that line, and you play around Pentakill Mordekaiser because he got
So
buffs on both
true.
of his, and you go to 3-star that. It's really strong.
Oh, it's so true though. Having that in your front line, it makes it so easy to play around and get those top 4s. But we'll have to wait and see if those players are going to do just that. We are moments away from being able to get into our first game of the day, and I'm so excited to be able to kick things over to Crowan and Gangly. Welcome back. How you both doing?
Thank you so much, Necro. Doing great. Shortly, we'll be getting into the first game of the KDA Cup, and I couldn't be more excited to do it alongside you, Gangly, now moving into the caster seat with me. How you feeling today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, first time in this seat. Feels nice to be on the other side. And there's a lot of things to be excited for today, right? We've got the big patch, but I think for me, most important thing is, like Cass said at the top of the show, there have never been higher stakes for the first cup of a set. Because we only have those 2 tournaments, it means that every single one of the players competing in this tournament are going to be giving everything they have. Because if you bomb out on day 1, it really makes the entire trajectory of your set 10 performance, I mean, look, much more grim than it otherwise would. So excited to see what the players are going to bring to the table.
Definitely. It feels like that kind of catchphrase, no margin for error, is really coming into fruition here in Remix Rumble with ladder only 2 cups. That combined with being on a massive new patch, like Azel mentioned, right? Really have to have a good meta read as we get into our games. But this is going to be our lobby number 1 that we're going to be hopping on board with here soon. We just got a chance to hear Humbug earlier. Really excited to get back into it. But there's a lot of heavy hitters in this lobby, Gangly.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The 2 that really stand out to me are going to be Wajan Iverson and Gyun, right? These 2 players going into set 9, we had this overarching storyline of the old guard versus the new guard. The old guard players like Milk and Kiyun and Pokygum returning to play, while the new guard that rose up in set 8, your Weijin Iversons and Bosso Skills and Stellar Minhees, kind of took their place. We got to see them battle. At the end of the day, Weijin Iverson was the top performer of the entire grouping, ended up in the top 3 of North America. So we get to see a little bit of a continuation of that. But the really exciting part is that it's not just those two, right? We have a much deeper pool. Players like Rainplosion, Humbug as well. I'm curious to know, actually, is there anyone stands out in particular to you?
Yeah, definitely the players who competed at Vegas. We have 5 players who did that are going to be in this lobby between Kiyun, Upset Max, Rain, DQA, and Humbug, of course, right? Getting 7th in Vegas. The other players were around that kind of 100th spot, but still, I definitely Weijin Iverson, especially with the success in the last set. Gonna be curious to see if he can do it again, but Gangly, on into the first game we go with Prismatic Prelude, Tactician's Crown, and Unit Accelerator as our portal options.
Humbug standing on that Tactician's Crown. I actually feel like it's so poetic for a lab member to be the one that to do that.